A black man walks confidently into a luxury airport lounge. He wears a perfectly pressed pilot uniform and carries a bag that shows his years of experience. People around notice his presence. He looks calm and professional. As he approaches the counter, a security officer blocks his path. The officer sneers and says, "You cannot be a real pilot. You do not belong here." Passengers in the lounge look up curious about the commotion. The man remains calm and pulls out his credentials. The officer refuses to even look at them. Instead, he accuses the man of faking his identity and orders him to leave. Security moves in and escorts him out in front of everyone. Little did they know, this man was not just a pilot. He was the CEO of the entire airline. What happens next would shock the entire airport and leave everyone speechless. Stay with us to see how the truth comes out and changes everything. Let us know where you're watching from in the comments. Do not forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this. The man at the center of this story is Captain Daniel Carter, a highly skilled pilot with over 20 years of experience. Daniel is not just any pilot. He is also the CEO of his own airline, a business he built from the ground up with determination and hard work. Daniel is a proud father of 2 and a devoted husband. He lives a modest life despite his success. His airline is known for its world-class service and diverse workforce. Daniel has always believed that everyone deserves equal opportunities. His team respects him for his professionalism and kindness, but not everyone he meets recognizes his worth. This story takes place at Westport International Airport, a bustling hub known for its elite travelers. However, the airport is also infamous for its issues with racial profiling. It is here that Daniel arrives, ready to oversee a major business trip and pilot one of his company's planes. Then we meet Jake Simmons, a head of airport security known for his arrogance and narrow-minded attitude. Simmons has a history of targeting passengers and staff who do not fit his preconceived image of authority. For him, Daniel's confidence and uniform immediately trigger suspicion. As Daniel steps into the lounge, he greets staff with a warm smile, but Simmons is already watching. What follows is an encounter that challenges not just Daniel's dignity, but the very principles of fairness and respect. This was a moment neither man could have expected, a moment that would bring a dramatic twist no one could have seen coming. Daniel walked confidently through the airport, his pilot uniform crisp and clean. He greeted the airline staff with a nod and smile as he made his way to the gate. Passengers glanced at him, some admiring his professional look, while others paid no attention. Daniel was not just a pilot for this flight, he was the owner of the entire airline. Yet today, that truth would not matter. At the gate, Jake Simmons, the head of security, spotted Daniel. Simmons was known for his strict demeanor and quick assumptions. He watched Daniel approach and immediately stepped forward, his expression hard. Simmons was not impressed by the uniform or Daniel's composed demeanor. All he saw was a black man walking confidently where he believed he should not. "Excuse me," Simmons said, blocking Daniel's path. "You cannot be here without proper clearance." Daniel stopped, surprised by the abrupt tone. "Good morning," he replied calmly. "I am Captain Daniel Carter. I am here for Flight 502. Simmons squinted at Daniel, his eyes filled with doubt. "Captain?" he said mockingly. "Let me see your identification." Daniel reached into his pocket and handed over his airline ID. Simmons barely glanced at it before shaking his head. "This could be fake. You need to step aside while I verify your identity." Passengers nearby started to notice the exchange. A few began whispering, watching the scene unfold. Daniel remained calm, his voice steady. "Sir, I am the pilot for this flight. If you need to confirm, you can speak to the airline staff. Simmons ignored the suggestion and instead gestured for backup. 2 security guards appeared within moments. Simmons turned to them and said, "Escort this man out. He is impersonating a pilot." The guards moved toward Daniel, grabbing his arm despite his protests. "There must be some misunderstanding," Daniel said, his voice still polite but firm. "I am here to do my job." The crowd's whispers grew louder. A woman standing near the gate shouted, "Why are you treating him this way? He has done nothing wrong." Simmons shot her a sharp look, but said nothing. The guards began leading Daniel away, his steps steady even as his dignity was challenged. Daniel glanced back at the gate where passengers were watching in shock. He knew this was more than just a personal insult. It was an act of blatant injustice. As Daniel disappeared down the hallway toward the security office, the murmurs in the crowd turned into conversations. "This does not feel right," one man said, pulling out his phone. "I am recording this. People need to see what just happened." Inside the security office, Daniel was seated in a small room. Simmons stood across from him, arms crossed. "Who do you think you are?" Simmons asked. "Do you think putting on a uniform makes you a pilot?" Daniel met Simmons's gaze without flinching. "I do not think so. I know. I am Captain Daniel Carter, and I own this airline." Simmons smirked, refusing to believe him. He stepped out of the room to make a call, leaving Daniel alone. Outside, the passengers were still talking about what had happened. The young man with the phone uploaded the video to social media, writing, "A black man in a pilot uniform being dragged away. This cannot be right." As the video began to gain attention, airport staff finally intervened. A senior airline official approached Simmons. "What is going on here?" the official demanded. "Why is Captain Carter in the security office?" Simmons hesitated, realizing he might have made a mistake. The official did not wait for an answer. He walked into the room, greeted Daniel, and said, "Captain Carter, we are so sorry for this. Let us get you back to the gate." Daniel stood, his composure intact. He said nothing to Simmons as he walked out. The truth was coming to light, and soon everyone would know who Daniel Carter truly was. Daniel sat in the small security office. His uniform was pristine, but the situation was far from professional. Simmons stood across from him, leaning against the table with a smug expression. The 2 guards who had dragged Daniel away stood nearby, watching silently. Daniel remained calm. His composure was unshaken, but inside he knew this injustice needed to be addressed. "Let me make this clear," Simmons said, his voice dripping with arrogance. "I do not believe you are a pilot, and your claims of owning an airline are laughable. You are wasting my time." Daniel took a deep breath. His voice was steady. "You can call the airline headquarters right now. They will confirm my identity." Simmons crossed his arms. "You think I am going to take orders from you? Sit there quietly while I figure this out." The tension in the room was thick. Outside, the passengers near the gate were growing restless. The video of Daniel being escorted away had started circulating online. People were watching, sharing, and commenting. Within minutes, hashtags like Justice for Pilot and Airport Discrimination began trending. Meanwhile, back in the office, Simmons continued to escalate the situation. He reached for a pair of handcuffs and held them up. "Since you are refusing to cooperate, I have no choice but to place you under arrest for trespassing and impersonating an airline employee." Daniel raised his hand slightly, his calm demeanor never wavered. "I am cooperating. You are refusing to verify my identity. Arresting me without cause is a serious mistake." Simmons ignored him and motioned to the guards. "Cuff him." One guard hesitated. "Sir, are you sure? This might not end well." Simmons shot the guard a sharp glare. "Do it!" Reluctantly, the guard moved forward and placed the handcuffs on Daniel's wrists. Daniel allowed it without resistance. He looked at Simmons and said firmly, "This is not the end. The truth always comes out." As Daniel was led through the airport in handcuffs, the scene caused an uproar. Passengers gasped and began recording on their phones. Some shouted in protest, while others asked security staff what was happening. A mother with 2 children called out, "Is this how you treat people just because of how they look?" Daniel's calm walk contrasted with the chaos around him. He held his head high, refusing to let humiliation overpower him. Among the crowd, a man in a business suit stepped forward. "That man is Captain Carter," he said loudly. "He is the owner of this airline. What are you doing?" Simmons paused and turned to face the man. "Stay out of this. This does not concern you." The man shook his head. "It concerns everyone. You are making a terrible mistake." The guards stopped walking, uncertain about what to do. Simmons, however, refused to back down. "This is my airport. I make the decisions here." Just then, a senior airline official appeared, pushing through the crowd. Her face was pale with disbelief. "What is going on?" she demanded. Simmons turned to her, his arrogance unwavering. "This man is impersonating a pilot. I am handling the situation." The official's eyes widened as she looked at Daniel. "This man is Captain Daniel Carter. He is not just a pilot. He owns this airline." The crowd erupted into murmurs. Some clapped. Others looked at Simmons with disdain. Simmons froze, his face turning red. He stammered, "That cannot be true. He did not look like—" The official cut him off. "I suggest you uncuff him immediately. This is unacceptable." The guard who had cuffed Daniel quickly stepped forward and unlocked the handcuffs. "I am so sorry, Captain Carter," he muttered, unable to meet Daniel's eyes. Daniel rubbed his wrists and gave the guard a polite nod. He turned to Simmons, his voice calm but firm. "You judged me before knowing anything about me. You assumed the worst. Remember, actions like yours have consequences." The official stepped closer to Simmons, her tone sharp. "You are suspended effective immediately. We will conduct a full investigation into your behavior." Simmons's confidence crumbled. He tried to speak, but no words came out. The crowd around them watched as the once arrogant head of security stood in silence, his authority shattered. Daniel adjusted his uniform and looked out at the crowd. "Thank you to those who spoke up. Your voices matter. Remember, we must always stand for what is right." The crowd applauded as Daniel walked away, escorted by the airline official. The video of the incident continued to spread online, reaching millions. Simmons would soon face the repercussions of his actions, while Daniel's dignity and composure became a symbol of strength. Daniel Carter stood outside the airport terminal. The handcuffs were gone, but the humiliation stayed. A few passengers came over to him. They offered kind words, but Daniel stayed calm. He thanked them and said he would make sure this never happened again. Inside, Simmons was pacing in his office. He was nervous now. His confidence had disappeared after being confronted. The senior airline official came back with a group of lawyers. She had gone through the case and confirmed who Daniel was. She looked angry. Simmons tried to explain. "I thought he was lying. He might have been dangerous," Simmons said. His voice was shaky. The official cut him off. "You judged him because of how he looked. That is wrong. It will not be tolerated. The story of what happened was already spreading fast. Videos from passengers were going viral on social media. People were outraged. Comments flooded in. They demanded that Simmons be held accountable. The hashtag Justice for Daniel trended everywhere. Some people called for Simmons to be fired. Others praised Daniel for staying calm. Daniel sat in a private room with his legal team. They were watching the videos that had gone viral. The videos showed everything. They showed Daniel staying calm and Simmons acting aggressively. A lawyer turned to Daniel and said, "This is clear proof of discrimination. We will take action right away." Daniel nodded. "I want accountability," he said, "but I also want real change. No one should have to go through this." At the same time, the airline official decided to hold a press conference. She wanted to stop the damage to the company's reputation. She invited Daniel to speak. At first, Daniel was unsure, but then he agreed. "This is not just about me," he said. "This is about standing up to discrimination." The press conference was held inside the airport. Journalists from all over came to report on the event. Cameras flashed as Daniel walked to the stage. He stood tall in his uniform. His presence was strong. The airline official spoke first. She apologized for what happened. She promised changes to prevent this from happening again. Then Daniel spoke. His voice was steady. "What happened to me today is not just about me," he said. "It is about the judgments we make and the bias we carry. I was not judged for my skills or my work. I was judged for how I look. This needs to change." The room was silent as he spoke. "I own this airline," Daniel said. "I have worked hard to achieve my dreams, but even with all my success, I am not free from prejudice. What happened today shows how far we still have to go." Daniel ended with a powerful message. We need to stand together against discrimination, not just at airports, but everywhere. We need to build a world where everyone is treated with respect. The audience applauded. Passengers, staff, and reporters stood up to clap. Simmons was there, standing in the back. He looked pale. He knew his career was over. After the press conference, the airline announced that Simmons had been fired. They also promised to train their staff on diversity and bias. The airline released a statement saying they were sorry for what happened and would do better. Daniel's story inspired many people. People from around the world shared their own experiences with racism and discrimination. Many reached out to Daniel, asking him to help fight for equality. Daniel accepted. He wanted to make a difference. As the day ended, Daniel sat in his hotel room. He looked at the messages people sent him. One message stood out. It was from a young man who wanted to become a pilot. The message said, "Your story inspires me to keep going. I will not give up on my dreams." Daniel smiled. He felt hopeful. Even though the day had been hard, he knew he could help bring change. He promised himself to keep fighting for justice, not just for himself, but for everyone. News about what happened to Daniel Carter spread everywhere. Videos showing him being removed from the airport went viral. People across the world could not believe that a black pilot had been treated so unfairly. The hashtag, Justice for Daniel, started trending online. Many people shared their anger and called for action. In the video, Daniel stayed calm. He did not argue or raise his voice, even when being humiliated. This earned him respect from millions of people. On the other hand, Simmons, the security officer, faced massive criticism. His actions were called racist and unfair. Protests began at the airport. Hundreds of people showed up with signs that said things like, "Stop racism now," and "Justice for Daniel." The crowd shouted for change. Passengers who had seen the incident spoke to the media. They said Daniel had done nothing wrong. One person said, "He was calm and respectful. This treatment was unacceptable." The airline faced huge backlash. People flooded their customer service with complaints. Many said they would not fly with the airline again. Some even canceled their tickets. The company's reputation was falling apart. They knew they had to act quickly to save it. More stories about discrimination started coming out. Passengers and employees shared their own experiences. A flight attendant said, "I was always overlooked for promotions because of my skin color. What happened to Daniel reminded me of my own struggles." These stories added fuel to the fire. The airline finally released a statement. They said they were sorry for what happened to Daniel. Simmons was suspended and an investigation was announced. But people wanted more than just words. They wanted real change. The news channels picked up the story. Interviews with Daniel and the passengers went viral. Daniel spoke with dignity. He said, "This is not just about me. This is about standing up to unfair treatment. Everyone deserves respect, no matter who they are." Simmons tried to avoid the media. His face was all over the internet. People recognized him and criticized his actions. He became a symbol of discrimination, and the pressure on him grew every day. The protests became bigger. Activists joined the movement and demanded better training for security staff. They wanted policies to ensure no one else would face what Daniel had endured. One activist said, "This is not just about one person. This is about changing the system." Daniel's story inspired many people. Other black pilots and professionals shared their support. A young pilot said, "Daniel gave us hope. He showed us that we are not alone in this fight for respect and equality." The airline held a press conference to address the situation. The CEO apologized directly to Daniel. She said, "What happened to you was wrong. We take full responsibility and will make changes." The company promised to train all employees on diversity and inclusion. But people were still angry. They said an apology was not enough. They wanted to see real actions. The airline promised to hire more diverse staff and create a better workplace. They said they would set up a team to handle cases of discrimination. Simmons eventually released his own apology. He admitted that he had made a mistake. "I judged Daniel unfairly," he said. "I am deeply sorry for what I did." His apology was shared online, but many people were still angry. Daniel responded with grace. He said, "It takes courage to admit your mistakes. I hope Simmons learns from this and becomes better." People praised Daniel for his kindness and strength. The protests began to calm down, but the movement for change continued. Schools, businesses, and communities started having conversations about equality. Daniel's story became a symbol of hope and the power of standing up for what is right. The airline made changes to their policies. They worked to rebuild trust with their customers. Daniel's actions showed the world that dignity and courage can bring change. He inspired people everywhere to speak out against injustice. Daniel Carter decided to turn this painful experience into something meaningful. He knew that staying angry would not help, so he focused on creating change. He held a press conference to address the situation. Reporters from all over the country attended. Cameras flashed as Daniel stepped forward with calm and grace. Daniel began his speech with a message of forgiveness. "What happened to me was wrong, but I choose not to hold hate in my heart," he said. "Instead, I want to focus on making sure this never happens to anyone else." His words touched everyone who listened. He spoke about the importance of fairness, respect, and equality. Daniel announced the launch of a new foundation. It would focus on fighting discrimination in workplaces and supporting young people who wanted to pursue careers in aviation. He said, I want to create opportunities for the next generation so they can rise above these challenges. The crowd erupted in applause. Meanwhile, Simmons, the security officer, began to reflect on his actions. He had been suspended and faced public criticism. At first, he was defensive and angry, but as time passed, he realized the weight of what he had done. He decided to reach out to Daniel. Simmons sent Daniel a heartfelt letter. In it, he admitted his mistake and expressed deep regret. "I judged you unfairly," he wrote. "I let my biases cloud my judgment. I am sorry for the pain I caused you." Daniel received the letter and decided to meet Simmons in person. When they met, Simmons apologized again. He looked Daniel in the eye and said, "I am truly sorry. I want to learn and do better." Daniel, in his usual calm manner, extended his hand. "It takes courage to admit when you are wrong," he said. "Let us move forward together." The airline also took significant steps to improve. They launched mandatory training programs on diversity and inclusion for all employees. They created a task force to handle discrimination complaints. The CEO thanked Daniel for bringing these issues to light. She said, "We will work hard to rebuild trust and ensure fairness for everyone." Daniel's foundation quickly gained support. People from all over the world donated to his cause. He partnered with schools and aviation organizations to inspire young people. He visited classrooms to talk about his journey. "You can achieve anything with hard work and determination," he told the students. The foundation also provided scholarships for underprivileged youth who wanted to become pilots. Daniel believed that representation mattered. When people see someone who looks like them achieving great things, it inspires them to dream big, he said. The incident also sparked conversations about discrimination in other industries. People shared their stories of unfair treatment. Companies began rethinking their policies and practices. Daniel's story became a symbol of hope and change. In the community, people organized workshops and discussions about equality. They invited speakers to share their experiences and educate others. Schools started teaching students about the importance of respect and empathy. The movement inspired many to stand up against injustice. Daniel remained humble throughout it all. He continued to work as a pilot and lead his foundation. "I do not want this to be just about me," he said. "This is about creating a better future for everyone." Simmons also took steps to improve himself. He attended diversity training and joined community programs to learn more about bias and fairness. He volunteered at Daniel's foundation, helping young people understand the importance of treating everyone with respect. "I want to be part of the solution," he said. The bond between Daniel and Simmons became an example of reconciliation. It showed that even in the face of pain, forgiveness and understanding could lead to growth. Their story inspired many to reflect on their own actions and biases. The airline's changes began to show results. Passengers noticed improved treatment and fairness. Employees felt more valued and respected. The company started to rebuild its reputation. The CEO said, "This incident taught us a valuable lesson. We are committed to doing better." Daniel's foundation continued to grow. It expanded its programs to include mentorship and career guidance. Young people from all backgrounds found hope and support through the organization. Many of them said Daniel's story gave them the courage to pursue their dreams. In the end, Daniel's strength and grace turned a moment of injustice into a movement for change. His actions showed that even in the face of adversity, kindness and determination could make a difference. His journey reminded everyone that the fight for equality was not just about one person, but about creating a better world for all. Daniel Carter's story became a beacon of hope for people everywhere. His ability to turn a painful experience into a positive movement inspired many. As he stood on the stage at his foundation's first anniversary event, he looked at the crowd with gratitude. "This is not just about me," he said. "It is about all of us standing together for fairness and respect." People who had faced discrimination shared how Daniel's story gave them courage. A young woman from the audience said, "I wanted to give up on my dreams, but your journey reminded me to keep going." Daniel smiled, knowing that his struggles had meaning beyond himself. The airline also showed its commitment to change. They announced new programs to promote diversity and support employees from all backgrounds. Their CEO spoke about the lessons learned. "We will continue working to ensure that everyone feels valued and respected," she said. The changes they implemented made a real difference. Simmons, the security officer who once judged Daniel, became a symbol of transformation. He spoke at the event, sharing his journey. "I learned how important it is to treat everyone with kindness and fairness," he said. "I am grateful for the chance to grow and do better." The foundation continued to expand its reach. It helped young people achieve their dreams by offering scholarships and mentorship. Students who once felt limited now believed they could achieve anything. The community came together to support these efforts, showing that change was possible when people worked together. Daniel's story also sparked important conversations about equality and justice. Schools introduced programs to teach respect and empathy. Businesses reviewed their policies to ensure fairness. People began to speak out against injustice, inspired by Daniel's resilience. As the event ended, Daniel looked out at the crowd one last time. "This is not the end of the story," he said. "It is just the beginning. Together, we can build a world where everyone is treated with dignity." The audience erupted in applause. People left the event feeling hopeful and determined to create a better future. Daniel's journey showed that even in the face of injustice, courage and kindness could lead to change. His message was simple yet powerful. Stand up for what is right. Never lose hope. And always believe that one person's actions can make a difference. What would you do in a situation like this? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Do not forget to like and subscribe for more inspiring stories. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next story.